Welcome back, everybody. This week we are going to talk about the Acolyte. With that show coming out, we've now had a couple clips drop, the official trailer, and as well a clip that we saw in theaters a few weeks ago when we went and saw The Phantom Menace. So we'll kind of dive into a little bit, just kind of some general reactions to that trailer and that clip, and then as well just kind of get into some things of what we're expecting to see in the show, what we hope to see in the show, and just kind of our overall thoughts about that moving forward. So to kind of kick it off, I mean, Lucas, feel free to hop in. Acolyte is going to be a High Republic, Old Republic era TV show. It looks from the trailers, obviously, it looks like we're going to see a lot of Jedi. Big prominent aspects of the trailer. We see the Jedi Temple. We see a lot of younglings. We see some cool saber colors here and there. But with the title being the Acolyte and the talk surrounding some type of Sith or dark fallen Jedi that's hunting other Jedi, it definitely has that vibe that it's going to be more of a Sith kind of centered show. But yeah, I don't know if there's any more background kind of to the show that you want to kind of shed on that, Lucas.
Yeah, I mean, nothing really in addition to other than this is going to be one of the first times we see something go back in the past so much. And just for reference, I think this is like 100 or so years before the Phantom Menace. And
Oh, okay,
so
nice.
we could see a lot of comebacks from, old characters like Yoda or Oppo Rancis, who are
Uh-huh.
who their race is they're like a lot older, they can last a lot longer. And so it is going to be cool if they do end up bringing characters like that back in, because it'll kind of give us back, for those who've played Jedi Survivor, no spoilers, but there's a lot of High Republic type stuff there, and it was cool because we got to see like a younger Oppo Rancis in there, and that was cool. So I guess this is something that I think it's not necessarily what the fans were really asking for. I
Hmm.
guess they were asking for it, but it wasn't. This isn't, I'm assuming, what they were thinking, right? They were thinking about like an Old Republic game, or like, Knights of the Old Republic come to animation or live action.
Hmm.
And this isn't really something that they generally were asking for. But I'm cautiously optimistic. I'm excited to see what they're gonna do with it, because I feel like we've been delving a lot in the last like decade of Star Wars content, with where it's like the Jedi are almost non-existent. People don't know what the Jedi are,
Yeah.
when before it used to be like there used to be 10,000 Jedi Knights all across the galaxy. And
Yeah.
it's like, how can they forget? And so I'm excited to see where that is like back into the same, like that same era.
Yeah, definitely. A lot to unpack there, honestly. I totally agree. I think, especially for you and me, again, Jason has he has a big love for that Empire Rebellion era, which is great. I mean, you and me are really big Jedi fans. That's what kind of makes, Star Wars for us, right? Is seeing the Jedi having the Force, that kind of mystical power. So again, I echo what you say. It will be nice to see the galaxy again, chock full of Jedi, and be able to kind of see what that looks like with them kind of again being peacekeepers, guardians, and all that. Um, I didn't know that it was only 100 or about 100 years before the first
I
movie.
th
That is really
I
interesting.
think so. Don't quote me on that, but I'm pretty sure that's what I read last time. I'll
Yeah,
see if I can fact check that.
do some research on that. I
Yeah.
mean, it would be interesting. That definitely was
200 years. 200
200
years.
years. Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, hey, it holds up, right? Yoda in Empire Strikes Back is what, like 900 or something. So,
900, yeah.
yeah, that was one of my big question marks as I was thinking about this show is like, will we see a younger Yoda? But I guess like dude would still be 200 or 700, right?
Yeah,
So
he'd still be
he's
pretty
not
old.
really young. Yeah. But yeah, like you said, it presents an interesting opportunity for them to bring back characters from either these video game series or from kind of different eras of Star Wars lore, which could be cool to bring in. one of the figures from the trailer towards the end, you finally see kind of the shadowy figure turn on their red lightsaber. They're wearing a helmet that looks kind of similar to what Kylo Ren wears in the sequels. So, do you think that they will kind of, again, we don't know how this series is going to go, but do you feel like they'll kind of go the route of inventing new characters entirely and kind of tying content to the sequels, or do you feel like they'll kind of take a backwards approach and there could potentially be more tie-ins to maybe like Knights of the Old Republic, or more to kind of the main Star Wars series that we've seen so far with the prequels and the original trilogy?
Yeah, I hope it's the latter for sure.
Yeah,
Because
that's where I'm at
that
too.
is right. That is something that I mean, us, and along with a lot of Star Wars fans have been asking for that canonical tie-in with some of the Legends expanded universe.
Hmm.
And this is going to be a great way to do that because a lot of the Legends stories, well, I guess depends on who you're talking to, but a lot of like the well-known legend stories happened before Phantom Menace, right? Happened
Yeah.
like in between the era of the High Republic and the Republic.
Hmm.
Um, and so that would be awesome to see if they bring in kind of characters that represent that because I know the Knights of Ren have been kind of like they're actually I was reading a comic way back when about Kylo Ren joining them, but they're actually like they're not a new thing. Like they're actually have been around for a while. And so maybe this could
Hmm.
be like the precursors into that.
Yeah.
And which I wouldn't mind seeing. Like I don't think that would be necessarily like a horrible thing.
Yeah.
Um, because that is cool. I feel like the Knights of Ren have been something that we've only heard of and like talk about like in the movies. But
Hmm.
then like that's it. And I'm like, you're really gonna leave out one of the coolest parts of the sequels, right?
Right.
Is to
And
see
in our
like
opinion, right, the best character in like the best new character in the sequel trilogy
in
for
the
me was
sequel
Kylo Ren.
trilogy.
So
Yeah,
yeah.
absolutely. And it's like I'm like despite all his moodiness and his temper tantrums and all that stuff, like he gave off this really cool like okay, he went from being Luke Skywalker's apprentice
Hmm.
to falling to the dark side and becoming this Kylo Ren, right? He's no longer Ben Solo. And so it's cool to see like where he would take that and I'm hoping that this could be like a precursor, right? Because the whole point of the show is supposed to be how did the Sith, end up infiltrating the Republic, right? And um that's going to be an interesting aspect that they're going to focus on. And I hope that they end up focusing on instead of trying to, play too many fields at once. And I hope that they just stick to the thing that they're looking forward to. It's like, okay, the Sith are coming back. They're slowly coming back. It's not like they all of a sudden come back and it's like, okay, here we go, Sith versus Jedi again. But it's like, how are they going to like wiggle themselves in, right?
Yeah.
And so I hope so. I hope it has like some connection to Knights of the Republic, but if not, I'm okay with it if it's gonna be like Knights of Ren sort of thing.
Yeah. One other question there. So you mentioned kind of Oppo Rancis from Jedi Survivor, right?
Yeah. He's
Um,
also in Phantom Menace. He's the
awesome
like
Phantom Menace.
the snake guy.
Yeah, yeah. So you have him, and then you have again. I haven't played Jedi Survivor yet, but I know you have that one character, the Jedi, who's kind of in the incubation chamber or whatever. What was
Yeah.
his name again?
Dagon Gera.
Yeah. Like, do you like? Could you see them potentially bringing in Dagan Gera? Is he from that era as well,
I
or
think he's a little bit older. I think
okay?
he's like I if I'm not mistaken, I had to go look it up again. I'm not but I think he is a little bit older and he's just
Hmm.
been in stasis that entire time. But I
Yeah.
mean, there is a character that you meet in Jedi Survivor who has literally been alive that long, right?
Hmm.
His species is known for like their longevity in life. And
Yeah.
so basically he was alive during um the time of Dagon and then he survived all the way up to the time of Cal when you play as Cal.
Hmm.
So,
Interesting. Yeah, no, it would be interesting to see them kind of tie in Jedi Survivor and kind of the Jedi Fallen Order timeline as well, especially because it feels like some of those major kind of lore tie-ins come from the animated TV shows, right? Like we've seen so many of those connections
Yeah.
in Star Wars Clone Wars, Star Wars Rebels. It felt like it was the perfectly teed up opportunity for Tales of the Jedi, and it wasn't there. So again, yeah, I would love again, I would love to see it, but when they were kind of pitching this idea, and I remember in the trailer, it's like from the studio that brought you The Mandalorian and Andor and these other shows that are kind of standalone. It feels like,
Yeah.
okay, we might just get entirely new characters, which in the end could be cool. We don't
Yeah.
every Star Wars content doesn't have to be so intricate where it's like, hey, we're going to bring in this guy, whatever. A
Right.
couple fun cameos is cool, but at the same time too, it's not going to be the end of the world if we don't have that. So
It's true. And it's funny that you mentioned that because I was actually thinking about this today. I'm going through another playthrough of Jedi Survivor because I was just wanting to play a Star Wars game. And so
nice.
I'm playing it again, and I was thinking about it, how they incorporated, because like they incorporate some of the enemies that are end up being battle droids, you
Hmm.
know, and one of like the main battle droids is the commando droids. And I was thinking about how we didn't see commando droids in the live action movies. At least I don't remember. And that was a Clone Wars thing that they brought in, right?
Yeah.
And so I just thought that was interesting because in the end, like they're taking parts and bits and parts of the story that Star Wars has like released in the last, couple decades, and they're
Hmm.
putting it into their content. And so I'm like, okay, so that means something in the future is going to be teed up. Like these are like a commander droid was big enough to be like, okay, we can expand this and put this into, a game where a bunch of raiders, take over some battle droids, reprogram them for their own use, but they added the commando droid, which was like shown in Clone Wars. And so I'm hoping that they do something similar, kind of like what you were saying, Jake, where it's like they don't have to bring in all of these crazy characters because they're not alive, right? You have like
Yeah.
a couple Jedi who are probably alive during the time
Hmm.
of like from the Acolyte to Phantom Menace and through Clone Wars and stuff, the Clone Wars saga. And I'm like, I'm okay if you don't have to bring all those characters in, but I do want to see tie-ins, right? That connect the universe as a whole because it just makes it
Hmm.
feel like instead of it being like, okay, it's part this, here's the Mandalorian part, here's the Clone Wars part, here's the
Yeah.
Empire part. It's like, no, this is one sole story, one sole universe. And Star Wars, it's like it's all Star Wars, right? And so
Yeah.
I'm hoping that this show has to bring in new characters, it has to show us all these new people, but at the same time, could I'm hoping that they connect it some way, right? Or at least
Mhm.
open the door to connecting it to
Yeah.
the broader universe.
Yeah. No, and I like hearing about you bring that up. I think that was one of my big worries about this show from the aspect from like the clip of it that we watched in theaters when we went and saw the Phantom Menace. We see kind of this fight scene between the one kind of older female Jedi with the green lightsaber who's fighting the one kind of assassin chick in the bar or whatever cantina they're in, right?
Yeah.
And there were elements of that fight that felt kind of similar to some aspects of Clone Wars for me. Like I was thinking about the episodes with Aura Singh and Ahsoka, Plo Koon. You have some kind of aspects of that kind of hinted at that a little bit, or that's kind of the vibe I got. But one thing I was kind of worried about was throughout that clip, we didn't see really like a true Sith or kind of dark side character, in my opinion. Like we saw this assassin chick who's like throwing knives around and like that's cool. But like for me, when I think Old Republic, High Republic, whatever you want to call it, I'm thinking like we got tons of Sith, we got tons of
Right.
Jedi, we
Red
got
lightsaber versus
red
green
lightsabers
lightsaber.
everywhere, right? Like
Yeah.
that's kind of the vibe that I was going for. And so again, in the trailer, I'm happy because we see the red lightsaber, we know someone's hunting Jedi, whatever it is. Um, but are we going to get that in the show, or is it just going to be something that's kind of hinted at? So like you're saying, hopefully they do have those elements of Star Wars that bring in and really make it feel like a Star Wars TV show and part of the Star Wars universe. And I think one of the big things for me, again, if you're going to this Old Republic era, like it would be cool to see, maybe we see like the rule of two in this, right? Maybe we
Right.
see a group of Sith, right? This like kind of binding um Sith code, if you will, that has existed throughout the Star Wars universe, laid out by like Darth Bane way early on. We see kind of elements of that story and that narrative throughout the series, even if it's all new characters that we don't know, right? So that's kind of one of the big things that I'm hoping we get with this show. Um, but time will tell. Who knows if they'll actually add kind of those elements, or if they'll just
Right.
go crazy and add whatever they want. So
Right. And I think we're
yeah.
going to see a little mix of both. One thing I'm actually excited to see, and at
Hmm.
least based if we can judge it off of the trailers, is that this is going to be a really good looking show. Like this is going to
Yeah.
be there's going to be a lot of visual effects and
Hmm.
unfortunately we're probably not going to see the same quality of lightsaber battles that we saw with, the prequels.
Yeah.
And you know, that's going to be something that's going to be a pill we have to swallow. But other than that, like it looks spectacular. Like I am
Hmm.
excited to see the differences. It almost gives that Andor vibe where he's
Yeah.
escaping, like doing the heist, right? And it's all those colors of like all the like the meteor showers coming in. And like there was a scene where he's flying through like an asteroid belt, and you can kind
Yeah.
of see like the different colors like kind of pop out, right? Not
Hmm.
as crazy colorful like that scene, but it's similar in that aspect, and I'm excited to see if like that holds true, right?
Hmm.
Because all in all, I think I'm being generous. This is going to be a entertaining show.
Hmm.
Now, if it's going to be like something that I enjoy with as a Star Wars fan, that's time will tell. But like all in all, I think it looks like it's going to be a great sci-fi show.
Yeah. Well, and that's the whole vibe. I'm happy that you brought up Andor with that. Like Andor as a show was a cool show, right? And like you said, some of the cinematic effects were amazing. Like the heist sequence where you're saying
It
the
was
whole
crazy.
meteor shower, so cool. Looked really, really good. And that was the vibe that I got from the trailer, especially, they show a few scenes where they're jumping through hyperspace, looked really nice. The scene that you're describing, right, where they're going through the whole asteroid belt, whatever, like you kind of see like the ice or frost in space, whatever. It looked really, really cool. So
Right.
hopefully that does hold up. Andor for me is a tough show. And we've talked about this before, but Andor, the lack of Jedi, the lack of, you know, I
Like
feel like
Star
Andor
Wars
is like four.
characters in general,
Yeah,
right?
right.
Like
Like, no, totally. I feel like it's like four shows in one. Like you get like a heist, you get like a prison break, you get like all these crazy things. And then it's just like, okay, like great show, really entertaining, but did it feel like Star Wars? Not extremely,
that's my
right?
thing.
And
Yeah.
so that's what I'm hoping they can bridge the gap on with Acolyte, right? Right, like you said, we it could be a really entertaining show, but hopefully it's an entertaining show. Cinematics are awesome and it feels like Star Wars, right?
And it's a
Hopefully
Star
we
Wars
get
show.
we get the Force, we get these kind of deeper elements that we love from the prequels, from the original trilogy, and dare I say, the sequel trilogy as well. Some of the aspects of it that we do like.
Right.
Hopefully, we get that in this show. And I don't think it's that hard to do. Like you just have to give the fans what they want. Give us
Yeah.
the Jedi, give us the lightsabers, give us like the lore. We don't need kind of crazy narratives and whatever, right? Because at
Right.
the heart of it, it's really simple, right? The Force is there, the Jedi are there, the Sith. It's a simple
Right.
story. So
Right. And I think that's the beauty of it is that I mean, you summed it up basically. I'm just I'm just hoping that this turns out to be like you can't please every fan, right? And
mhm,
but I feel like in this case with Star Wars, you can please most fans if you just stick to what people have been calling out as good, right? Like there's some people who probably don't like the Clone Wars animated show, probably some
yeah,
people who don't like the original trilogy, right? And
mhm,
there's always going to be people who kind of are going to be negative on whatever things. But from like our circles and the people that we've heard who I feel like a lot of we've other people bridging the concepts of Star Wars kind of throughout time, all we want to see is we want to see someone connect to the Force, right? We want to see like um like for us prequel fans, we want to see clones. We want to see more clones, right? Bad Batch was awesome with this last season. I'm a huge fan. I want to see more Jedi and the Force, so this is going to be something that's kind of right up my alley.
Hmm.
Even though it is going to be tailored a little bit more to the Sith and kind of like the downfall of the Jedi, so to speak.
Yeah,
But it is going to be cool to see kind of those little like glimmers of people who are actually like, no, this is how the Force should be, right? This is how the light side, this is how the Jedi should act instead of like
yeah,
corrupt and or like politically correct and all that stuff. And
yeah,
so I am with you right there, and I'm just hoping that all in all, I'm going to be cautiously optimistic for the show because I know that there's been some hindrances from the directive and writing desk of the show that kind of
yeah.
got me a little nervous. But all like I'm still gonna watch it. It's a Star Wars show. It looks cool. It's got Jedi. It's got the Force. Like I'm still gonna watch it. And
Hmm.
so I'm all in all, I think the trailers did a great job of hyping me up a little bit, but like also myself maintaining my expectations.
Yeah, yeah. No, I feel really similarly. Um, I think, do I think it's going to be like a massive hit, and I'm going to be, raving about it like I was with Clone Wars, with Rebels, certain episodes of Mandalorian, certain
Yeah,
episodes
we
of
hope so.
Ahsoka, right? Well, I hope so. That'd be great, right? But managing expectations, we'll see. I think it has more potential. Um, I don't know, actually. I'm like 50-50. I almost said it has more potential to be a miss, but I think it could go either way. So,
It is such
yeah,
a mystery right now.
yeah. Final question for you. If you could see like one thing, if you could like be in the writing room and add one thing to the show, like one character you want to see or one, I mean, character is easy, right? But if there's like one thing that you wanted from the show, what would it be? And if you want a
Um,
minute, I can also answer that too.
yeah, no, I mean, the first thing that comes to mind is its connection to the expanded universe um with Knights of the Old Republic and the Old Republic. Like, right. Like
Mhm.
I need that connection because those
Yeah,
stories are so rich and so diverse, but like so they're just ready to be put on the screen. Like I've never seen a story or like people are like, "Oh, what video game adaptations should we do next?" Right?
yeah,
Knights of the Old Republic and Old Republic have been on my mind all the time because they are stories that people will love. And
yeah.
especially after the cinematics that we've seen in their trailers, like
Oh
if you
yeah.
can put that into a show, that is going to make every fan happy. And I will be, I mean, we'll always find naysayers out there, but that's going to be really hard for people to get off. So
Mhm.
my biggest thing is for them to connect it to that expanded universe.
Yeah. And would you, going along with that, like, would you be okay with them like retconning certain elements of those characters' stories to bring them back to the main universe? And I'll give you an example of this. Like, when we think about Thrawn, right? We have so much information in the legends about Thrawn and about his story and everything. And again, Dave Filoni brought him back for Star Wars Rebels. We brought him back for Ahsoka. He's this big character who has kind of a different trajectory, but we did pull him from Legends, right? Would you rather that they do that
Sure.
with those characters, or that they kind of just leave those characters where they're at and they kind of either reference them or bring him into, like Darth Bane, for example? They bring him in and they say, hey, there was a Sith thousands of years ago, hundreds of years ago, whatever. He taught this thing, whatever, and that's all they do. Or
Right.
would you rather them bring him in and have him be like the main villain in the show, right?
Yeah, I mean, if Dave Filoni's taking care of their character backstory, then I'm all for it. Because if he can do something like he did with Maul, right,
Yeah.
or he did with like you mentioned with Thrawn, and do that
Hmm.
with Revan, right, or with Satele, or with
Yeah.
Darth Bane, right, or any of like the Sith like leaders,
Hmm.
I think that'd be a huge hit. And so yeah, as long as the writing on it is as quality and top tier as like Darth Maul and Thrawn, yeah, absolutely 100% bring them in. You can change their story enough, but like again, it's going to be so good that we're not going to be upset.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I think that's a good take. Answering kind of that final question as well. I think the one thing, I mean, you summed it up great. I think I would love to see a connection to Knights of the Old Republic. Haven't played the games, have read just more about kind of the overall lore with that. I'd love Teal, Sean. Her character is great. I would love to just see like a really cool. Again, yeah, we have like these characters that we love. If we saw one of the characters has like a double bladed blue lightsaber, I think that'd be really cool.
So hype,
So
yeah.
that'd be cool. Again, I know Lucas is a yellow lightsaber guy, so we've already seen in the
I'm glad to
trailer.
see
You know,
that.
we're gonna get a lot of that, which will be cool. But again, hoping it's just Jedi and Sith galore. Um, but yeah, I think overall vibe is cautiously optimistic. So,
Yeah.
you got anything else to add there, Lucas?
Nope. I mean, June 4th, that's coming up in a couple weeks. So
Yeah,
there
no,
we go.
it's coming up quick. So, we'll hit you all back when we watch it, and hopefully it's a good show. So we'll catch y'all in the next one.